Dollywood is making their largest single expansion to date with the $25 million Big Bear Mountain roller coaster. It's their longest roller coaster ever at 3,990 feet. Riders will experience 3 launches, max height 66 feet, top speed 48 miles per hour. The ride is themed to this massive black bear that's been roaming through Wildwood Grove for as long as anyone can remember. No one's ever seen him, and so passengers are invited to board a giant SUV and go out into the woods to see if they can find Big Bear. And it's sure to be a great family attraction, which at its core really is what this is. They didn't design a ride here for the enthusiasts, and that's very apparent. I mean, our minimum height requirement is only 39 inches. So yes, it's not going to get too extreme. I almost want to think of this as like a modern day mine train. Take out the lift hills and replace them with launches. And much like a mine train, this coaster doesn't feature any real standout moments. It all just kind of blends into one fluid attraction. Think of like a family version of Terran, where there's not a distinct moment. It just kind of goes along doing the same sort of maneuver in different ways. There's lots of twisted hills as it's winding down the mountain, and this is a terrain coaster. Just looking at this rendering, I would have guessed that the track length would have been well over 4,000 feet, maybe approaching 5,000 feet even, which is spectacular. There's so many short roller coasters out there. Even Dragonflyer right next door is a pretty quick ride. So it's very cool that they're using this space, especially that it wraps completely around Wildwood Grove. I mean, when you enter, you're gonna be able to look to your side and see the end turnaround of the attraction. And then as you're walking through the land, you'll always be able to see this coaster. And then the entrance to it is going to be all the way in the back of the area. Right now, Wildwood Grove dead ends at Dragonflyer. And so this station is going to be located just past that. It's pretty obvious that this is where the next big investment is going in Dollywood. In fact, I remember when I first entered Wildwood Grove when it first opened, they had this fenced off area right next to Dragonflyer where you could just tell that it was the doors that would open for one day, a future expansion to go right there. And that's what this is. But you can tell that this probably is it as far as big Wildwood Grove investments, because this attraction is meant to be the end of this area. It doesn't look like it's going to go any further back. And because this is at its core a kids area, it makes sense that they go with a family attraction back there. Now what's interesting to me is that they didn't go with something that was just a tad more thrilling, because right now it looks to be on the same thrill level as Fire Chaser Express. And I've seen a lot of comments of people saying this shares a lot of similarities to it. In a way, you might be able to argue that Fire Chaser Express is a bit more extreme. I mean, that features a backwards section. Heck, Fire Chaser Express is even taller than this will be. That's 78 feet tall. Now, this will go over 10 miles per hour faster, so you can tell that it's yet again another stepping stone attraction. But you know, there's different categories in that family coaster category. I feel like they could have leaned a bit more into the family thrill level, because I look at how it's taking some of these moments in the animation. Again, we don't know how it's going to run in real life. This is just an animation. But it makes me wonder if they sped up a couple of those launches just a little bit, if that might make the pacing a bit better, so the actual elements stay the same. But that way it won't feel slow or boring in any parts. Because as of right now, I will say the first half doesn't look too terribly interesting. The second half, I think, is where this attraction is going to shine. A couple parts of it really remind me actually of Icebreaker over at SeaWorld Orlando. It's got a double down, some of these kind of wave turn-like elements. That's another family thrill coaster, or at least it tries to be. I know it has a 54-inch height requirement, but anyways, I am curious to see how this attraction is going to run, because on paper it does seem like a bit of an odd fit when they already have Fire Chaser, but when you think about the crowds that Dollywood draws, it is a lot of families, and they're the ones that spend the most money. So this attraction is not only going to cater to kids, but also some of the older crowd, which happens to be a lot of the guests that visit this park. So I completely understand why they went with this attraction. Although, one thing that I do wish that they did, that I think would have made this a stronger addition in the park personally, would have added more versatility to their lineup, is actually just change out the trains. Right now, I believe they're the same trains that Vekoma uses on their family boomerang coasters. If not, then it'll be very similar. Swap those out with their motorbike trains. So now you're riding on like a motorcycle through Wildwood Grove. So it's a different seating arrangement, something that you can't get on any other coaster in the park. You don't have to make any changes to the layout or anything. I think suddenly if you did that, this coaster is a lot more interesting. So personally, I'm really surprised that they didn't go with that, especially when we know that Vekoma offers that as one of the rides in their portfolio. Maybe it was something they considered, but felt that if they just go with the standard seating, it would appeal to more people. Who knows? A ton of thought goes into designing these attractions, so I'm sure they went through a ton of variations of this ride and layout. One thing I'm curious about, because I'm not 100% sure that this is true, but it looks like Big Bear Mountain is going to be using LiOMs to launch the coaster as opposed opposed to LSMs. That's linear induction motors as opposed to linear synchronous motors. Other coasters that use LIMs include Flight of Fear or like those Intamin impulse coasters. Most launch coasters these days are using LSMs. But I feel like if that were the case, in this animation you would be able to see the stators, which is those white fins that you normally see on the launch track. So this should be pretty cool if that ends up being the case. Or it'll just end up being LSMs and it's just an animation error. I'm interested in seeing how it rides, if it's going to keep a good pace, or if it'll just kind of meander around and be a bit more on the tamer side. I'm hoping that it's a bit more exciting, just so it doesn't feel redundant from Fire Chaser. But we do know how popular that ride is. It always has one of the longest queues in the park. Frankly, it does surprise me that this is their most expensive edition yet. I don't know if it's just because of inflation and the price of steel going up, but when I think largest single edition yet, I wouldn't have guessed this as opposed to like something like Lightning Rod. I wonder what specifically made it more expensive. It might have been the trains, honestly. Dollywood is saying that this will have onboard audio, which is fantastic. It's great to see more theme parks integrating that because audio really can add to a ride experience. So personally, I think it'll be fun. I don't think it's going to blow anyone away. The park already has several big thrill coasters, so I don't think it's a loss that it's not going to be another crazy thrill ride, especially when this park is expanding so fast. They're always adding new additions. If this is a family coaster now, in a couple of years, they're probably going to add another big thrill coaster. Regardless, one thing I am super excited about is that we're getting a modern day Vekoma brought to the US, even if it is a family coaster. I think it's a stepping stone of the Vekoma renaissance coming to the US. They have so many great roller coasters overseas. Not enough parks are picking up on these attractions when they're so great, so I love that Dollywood has taken a step here. If this is going to be a great family coaster, I mean, imagine what Vekoma could do if you were taking these elements way faster, way taller. They could give Intamin a run for their money. But let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of Big Bear Mountain coming to Dollywood in 2023? Let me know if you agree with my thoughts, if there's anything that you think I missed. So thank you so much for joining me for this analysis, and stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.